I am. I'm not Mr. Apostle. Yes, sir. I'm an expert witness and energy expert. I am working tonight for CENSE, and I'll keep my comments very brief.
Tell us where you're from.
Portland, Oregon, and I will address, with the help of the clerk, the PowerPoint, both my qualifications and the issues I'm addressing.
And Mr. McCullough, make sure that microphone is close to you. It won't pick you up if you're talking sideways or behind you. You really need to talk to it.
I will watch your eyes carefully, and if you flash, I'll know I made a mistake. So thank you. So,
I'm watching you on this screen in front of you.
very good. Qualifications, I've been in the business 40 years. I am a past utility executive at Portland General. At Portland General. My past clients include all of the major utilities in the area, including PSE, City of Seattle, City of Tacoma, Snohomish. In addition, I've worked for the state of Washington, the Attorney General of Washington, Attorney General of Oregon, Attorney General of California, Attorney General of Illinois. Sorry, I had to take a breath. U.S. Department of Justice, New York Legislature, and many more. I have to admit at the outset that my worst defeat is in a land use case such as this, where I represented 200,000 individuals in Portland, Oregon, objecting to a strip bar between a school and a park. And I will tell you that I did very poorly in that. The strip bar is alive and well, so I hope I will do better tonight than I did in the past. This is a very simple presentation for me, probably the easiest of the presentations you'll hear tonight. The studies that we're talking about are dated. And then we see up there a list of different names for this project, different dates of the project. But the project, in effect, has been in place for the last decade. These are names at different filing areas. The studies for these cases are also very dated. In fact, some of them simply never existed. The one you've heard already about shipping power to Canada was outlawed under British Columbia law in 2005. They cannot accept the power as a matter of law. Since then, we've talked primarily of local needs, and the local needs involve load growth. Now, within this technology, we're talking about load forecasts, and these are very detailed, very carefully prepared forecasts. PSE has noted that they have been reviewed and their methodology was not flawed. I would agree with that. However, the truth of the matter is that they were not correct. Now, that is not actually an example of incompetence, certainly isn't an example of bad faith. It's an example of a rapid shift in technology and the way we run the system. If you look up at the ceiling, we have luminaires that were perfectly appropriate 2 or 3 years ago. They're no longer up to date. They will be replaced probably fairly soon. That does not mean that anyone in this room was bad. It means that the entire technology has changed. Because lighting is diminishing rapidly as a form of load, the capacity loads on the system are falling throughout our area. And what that means is that almost every utility argument involves bringing those load forecasts up to date.
You mean the room will be cooler?
The room will be much cooler. And if I can say so, thank God that you changed the thermostat, because I'm sitting here in my expert testimony suit and I was boiling alive. So when we started this, PSE was proposing a 1.66% per annum growth rate in their capacity loads. Perfectly acceptable forecast. Today, their growth rate is just 0.73, again an acceptable forecast. But the important information that invalidates their studies is that the actual rate of capacity load growth since 2008 has been minus 1.49%. Now, where do you get those numbers? We've seen some numbers thrown around here, but the fact of the matter is you actually have to have real sources. These numbers come from PSE's FERC Form 1, This is a document that they are required to file. It is subject to many legal standards, and we've simply taken those numbers through 2007 from their own filing. We have extrapolated 2008 because they've not made their filing yet, but we've used Energy Information Administration and FERC data to do this. Bluntly put, all of the studies produced in case 17-120556-LB have been based on the wrong capacity requirements. Again, this is not misleading, it's not dishonest, it simply is an example that the forecasts have become dated. Here, for example, is the load forecast behind the City of Bellevue Electric Reliability Study Phase 2 report. The dots going up through the sky are the forecast. The blocks at the bottom are the actuals. The forecast error for this year is enormous. This means that everything in that study is dated and is not possible to establish a need. And I'll repeat one more time. These people did not do it badly or dishonestly or crookedly. These same sort of errors are seen throughout our industry today because of the changes in technology. The next slide is the same. This is the Supplemental Eastside Needs Assessment Report. Again, the dots are the rapid growth forecasted, and the forecast error is the difference between the dots and the rectangle. Again, not dishonest, not poorly designed, but invalidated by the facts. Our forecasts have not been sufficient to show need. The fact is that under item 3 of 2020.255.E, we do not have a sufficient showing of need in this case.
While you turn the page, Mr. Andrew, where is this presentation notebook I have? If I wanted to make a note on it or something.
It's on 5.1, sir.
You may continue. Go ahead.
I'm going to take you to page 6, which is not on the slide, but that shows all of the forecasts that we've had since we've started this. And you'll notice that the blocks always cluster on a downward sloping trajectory at the bottom, and the forecasts always have a rapidly increasing trajectory. Now, before we actually say that something is wrong, we have to deal with this question of what the need is. The need is the actual numbers we see today. They are not the numbers that we forecasted 5 and 10 years ago. If you turn to, no, I think I have this one on the next slide. Let me just check. Yeah. This is Seattle City Light's current forecast. You'll notice that the utility across the lake is not showing a growth pattern for capacity. This is not because Seattle is different than Puget. The fact is they have many issues in common, both demographics, technology, and growth. What has happened is that they have updated their forecasts reflecting these changes in technology, much of which are lighting. And so what we're seeing here and we've seen elsewhere is that the old forecasts are no longer pertinent to the decision we're making. I'm trying to make sure I do not offend on the timing. How am I doing, Council? That'll be just fine. I had the same presentation at the Cabinet of British Columbia a year ago, and their utility has the same issues. This is an issue throughout the industry. Now let's take this down to this question of Eastside. We've not seen updated Eastside numbers since the 2015 reports. We've asked for them, we've not seen them. Therefore, the best we can do is evaluate them on the basis of the overall load growth as reported to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. The updated Eastside forecast you have here shows the actual data up through 2014, and then the forecast based on the overall data provided to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. The horizontal lines in the middle of the chart are the area of interest. That's where we have to meet in order to maintain reliability standards. You'll notice that our actuals and our forecasts come nowhere near it. Again, this is not unusual. This is not dishonest. This simply represents a very massive change in technology. So finally, economics. We don't have much data on the economics, but we do unfortunately have an incentive issue. Under the regulatory formula, maintaining a project, even if only a part of it is accepted, is a financial incentive. So my request as an expert to you, Mr. Hearings Officer, is fairly straightforward. We need the up-to-date data, and we need an updated forecast. We cannot rely on forecasts from 5 years ago. Thank you very much.